we're not telling pregnant people how freaking hard it is and like how it is going to rock your identity, your world, your marriage, your career. We're not saying that. And it's really kind of weird because it's just like, congratulations, which it is obviously a congratulations. There's nothing like a birth of a person entering the world. It's epic. But there's also, we could do a lot better in terms of like being transparent about the impact of the baby bomb than we do. And I don't think we're doing anybody any favors by that, keeping that under wraps. I don't know. That just came up for me because I was thinking about that when I was talking with Patricia. I just was like, I just want you to know it's really freaking hard and you're going to struggle. And I want you to know we all do. Like, you're not failing because you're struggling. It's just really difficult.
Welcome to the Relationship Psychologist podcast.
Tune in every Thursday to learn with us as we interview experts.
And laugh with us as we banter about friendship.
And take action by implementing the tools and advice we provide to you each week to level up your personal relationships.
I'm Dana Mullen.
And I'm Alicia Hinger.
We are soul sisters, besties, and psychologists on a mission to change the culture of relationships.
Your journey to becoming more supported and connected starts
right now.
Welcome, Kara.
Thanks for having me, ladies.
No, amazing. Got your introduction, and then we're going to dive into all the questions because we have 1,000, and I want to hear all your great insights. So Kara Hoppe is an MFT, a psychotherapist, a teacher, a feminist, and a mother. She has spent more than a decade as an inclusive therapist working with individuals and couples, and probably families, towards healing and growing, becoming grounded, and integrating people with better access to their own instincts, wisdom, and creativity. Kara offers virtual retreats for parents and expectant couples based on her book, Baby Bomb, which we're going to dive into today, which is a survival guide for new parents. And it honestly is. And not just new parents, all parents, like we talked about earlier. Her work has been featured in The Atlantic, Parents Magazine, Psychology Today, Fatherly, and Your Tango, among other publications. She lives with her husband and 2 children in Pioneer Town, California, and sees clients in private practice via telehealth. Welcome, Kara. So happy you're here. Honestly, I can't be more excited.
I'm happy I'm here too. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be with you both.
Yes. We were saying earlier, we kind of all trained, 100 years ago, understand. So we kind of have that background, but that feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it really does.
It really does. Yeah, man, which is why we want you here. Like, we're so happy to have you because if, like we were just saying before we started pushing record, if I had read your book or even knew about secure functioning before I had kids, it would have been a game changer. We did lots of hard stuff and lots of things wrong, and it took years. And I'm, 22 years into this now, recovering and being like, holy cow, we didn't know some stuff. So what we're going to discuss today, I think if you're listening, if you have children, want to have children, are thinking about having kids, this is the podcast to listen to because Kara's wisdom and insights on secure functioning and even some of Stan's principles and how to, bomb proof, which is a good title, your relationship for your baby. This is the podcast. So yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So excited to have you, Kara. I know we were chatting kind of earlier, and I'm just going to so people who are on YouTube, you can see this. The book is phenomenal. And we were saying earlier, Alicia and I have been chatting lots about the book over the time since you read it. Yeah, you've got notes. It would have it feels like a guidebook. Like it really does feel like the first book that is actually walking through conversations that even reading it now, having 3 kids that are like 16, 13, and 6, I was still like, wow, that we could even go back and have some conversations around things that we didn't have conversations around. And we're PACT therapists. We're all trained the same, and still, I got so much from the book. So I can't wait to dive in and ask you questions because it's my number 1 referral book as well to any of my couples that have kids. I have Stan's books, his other ones, and then I'm like, and if you have kids, you need to read this one too. So I can't say enough about it.
Thank you for saying that. It was such a labor of love because it's the book that Charlie, my husband, and I needed.
Yeah.
We were great before we had our first son, Jude. Like we were rocking and rolling. And then I just was like, I don't know, 6 months after he was born, I was like, what is going on? Our marriage was in a really vulnerable place, uncharacteristically vulnerable. And I went to the literature, being a couple therapist, like what can I read about? And I wasn't finding anything that really resonated with me. It was either just a little too heteronormative or traditional, gender traditional, or like another book that was funny and enjoyable, How Not to Hate Your Husband After Kids. Was like, it was like I related to parts of it, but it didn't help me out of that vulnerable spot in a way that I really needed. So I went to my friend, mentor, Stan, and we talked about it. And then as Charlie and I got, clawed our way back to secure functioning, I said to Stan, we should write a book about this. Like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
This is a thing.
And there's so many
Yeah.
things. Even the simple one you talked about in your book, like even as I didn't even think about it till you said it in the book. You're like, here I am trying to figure out the latch and getting my son to latch and the whole thing. And you're like, yes, I did it. And I'm so excited. But now I'm really freaking thirsty. And now I can't move because I got this baby to finally latch. I'm on the couch and you're like, yo, babe, can you even drink of water? And then when you came back, you're like crying. You're like, I just realized really how vulnerable and dependent I just became. I used to be this super independent therapist, all the things. And now I'm like, man, I can't even get a drink of water by myself or have a shower as I want to use by yourself. Like those little things we don't even think about. You're like, wow, those are massive. Actually, there's so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's part of like big shift, right? Is like becoming a parent, but also becoming parents in a relationship. You become implicitly so interdependent on each other, but who knows how to do that? Who knows how to tolerate endless committee meetings about going to the bathroom and showering and these things that you never had to ever run by your partner? Suddenly, you're like negotiating on daily. I mean, of course, when your baby's first born, and then slowly that changes, but the committee meetings don't. And just this back and forth and how to do that like with sensitivity and attunement and negotiating a win-win instead of using maybe old strategies of using power over or some kind of, other ways of doing it that you have to clean up, weeks, months, years down the road.
Yeah, true. Can we just
Yeah.
a little bit for the audience? We talked about secure functioning. That's win-win. Like you're giving ideas, which are brilliant. But just back up a little bit for the audience that doesn't know what secure functioning actually. We've talked about it a lot in the podcast, but just remind our audience what that looks like, and a bit about how the baby kind of, like you said, it actually makes the foundation. It can make it harder to create or to maintain secure functioning.
Yeah, definitely. So secure functioning is this idea based on attachment theory. And attachment theory is about the relationship that infants have with their primary caretakers. And it's that bond, it's our primal bond that we all have wired into our nervous systems. And there's different kinds of attachment. There's insecure and secure attachment. And then there's an idea and a concept of secure functioning. And this is not something you're not negotiating secure functioning with your children. This is something two adults do, two adults on equal playing field, the same amount of power, not the power differential between a parent and a child. And secure functioning is an idea. It's actually really more of a practice because you never arrive there. You're constantly attuning to your partner with sensitivity, an eye about collaboration based on fairness, justice, care, that I am better, this idea, I am better when you're better. We're better when we're together and we're helping each other out to thrive. So it's this grand idea, and then the practice of it is really kind of in the weeds. Like, what does that mean? What does it mean to be attuned to your partner, to let them be attuned to you, to give love, to receive love, to be attuned to their needs, let them be attuned to yours. Like, that's the ongoing practice.
Yeah.
And that's hard for everybody to do. Let me just say that. Like, it's like, doesn't matter what your attachment style or your attachment orientation is. If you have an insecure attachment or a secure attachment, it is a developmental leap of maturity that feels more to me authentically like a practice to recognize that I am better when I'm taking care of my partner and allowing him to take care of me.
Yeah.
That's just, it's because we get into this thing, we as people get into this thing where we think, I got to get my needs met. How am I going to get my needs met? And then we have different strategies to make that happen. Secure functioning is like, I got to get my needs met. I have to help my partner get their needs met. Same line. So anyway, that's the idea of secure functioning. And then in Baby Bomb, and I'm sure we're going to talk about today, there's like all of the practicalities of what it looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, which actually, when I wrote down my notes, that's what I put: ongoing practices, which is what this book is. It's like literally step by step. Like there's 10 different practices, and you give great examples and vignettes of other couples, including yours and Charlie's relationship, of how to. And I love that you give vignettes of like, here's what it looks like when you don't do it, and here's what it looks like when you do it. Like here's how you can put it into practice, and here's what it might look like if you actually apply these practices to create security. So that's. Yes, I want that to be like hammered into people's minds. Like it's a practice. It's not a destination of like, oh, we're secure. Okay, we're done. It's an ongoing practice. That's so beautiful and so important.
Right. I mean, you could be secure in one moment and insecure in the next.
So easy.
And the other way too, you can be insecure in one moment and reach out for connection and find security in the next. So it's like you can get out of it also just as much as you can fall into it. It's this constant allowing yourself, I guess, grace and forgiveness when you kind of fallen off the cart, and let that go and just get back on, and allowing your partner the same grace. They fell off. That's okay.
Well, isn't that maybe the foundation for actual long-term novelty, closeness, mad love? Like that's the foundation, I think. Let me see if your thoughts of like, as we fall off and give grace for falling off, like as we evolve and grow and are messy, and then we give grace and space to be like, oh, we didn't do that quite, let's do it again. That coming back, I feel like creates more tethers, more attachment, more safety, more security, and more closeness, more connection.
I think so too. And think about how cool it is that your kids watch that happen.
Amazing.
Do you know what I mean? Your kids are like mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad. They're not perfect. They mess up and they repair. That means I can mess up and I can repair,
Yeah, exactly. It's massive. So if you're listening to this going, being like, okay, I got to get this right. That's not the point. The point isn't to get this right. The point is to go, oh, it's a practice and I'm going to get it wrong. Welcome to being human. And every time you get it right, every time you come back and repair, that's the good stuff. And like you said, having your kids watch that, permission for them to be messy and vulnerable and authentic and keep growing. Wow. Because us islands over here didn't get that, or wavies didn't get that, to the degree that we're trying to create it for our family of origins now. Beautiful. Hey, Dana, I know you're dying to ask your questions. Keep jumping in.
Well, there's a couple different things that were popping up for me. I like how you have such a step-by-step process, Kara, in this book, of even starting from the very beginning of the fact that you become pregnant and it's all about the baby. And it's like this couple shift that you had that you may have been really awesome at doing is like abandoned and it's forgotten and it's all focused on the baby. And then because society does that, you focus on the baby too. You're just focused on something that you have no idea what to expect. Even if you read What to Expect When You're Expecting, and which is not the greatest resource, it's not going to actually tell you what it's like to have a baby. You walk through those conversations of how do we talk about what's going to change in our career, in our hobbies, in our body, in our ability to manage each other, like just so many step-by-step processes. And I'm just curious your intake on that. Like, Kara, if there's anything you want to add of like how important this is for couples to have those conversations early on.
Yeah, I mean, I would advocate, of course, for couples to have those conversations. I think it is very important. I also want to name, there's something weird that happens in addition to like focusing all on the baby I was actually talking to another PAC colleague about this just the other day, who is pregnant. And I like how we're not telling pregnant people how freaking hard it is and like how it is going to rock your identity, your world, your marriage, your career. We're not saying that. And it's really kind of weird because it's just like, congratulations, which it is obviously a congratulations. There's nothing like a birth of a person entering the world. It's epic. And but there's also we could do a lot better in terms of like being transparent about the impact of the baby bomb than we do. Um, and I don't think we're doing anybody any favors by that, keeping that under wraps. I don't know. That just came up for me because I was thinking about that when I was talking with Patricia. I just was like, I just want you to know it's really freaking hard and you're going to struggle. And I want you to know we all do. Like, you're not failing because you're struggling. It's just really difficult. And like, because I think when we don't talk about it, new parents are in it and they're in the mix and they have like the sleep deprivation, the body changes, the hormones, their partnerships, like all of it is just very in a descent kind of, like in this moment of transformation. And then there can be a layer of isolation and shame because they're like, I'm not seeing that on social media. Nobody told me that at my baby shower. No one mentioned I'd be in diapers. Like, nobody like is saying just very real things that happen very pretty universally. So that's what I think when like about adding that, like just let's normalize the difficulty and not hide it. And it's not, you're not doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean you're not a great mom because you're struggling.
Yeah.
It's just that hard.
Yeah. And to highlight in the book, there's all the areas you describe as potential hardness and to add your own, like those are maybe 10 or whatever descriptions you have in the book of like, here's some common areas. But just thinking about, if I just like, as you're talking, I'm just like, oh, if I would have had someone say to me, pregnant,
right?
no one said anything. I was the first one of both sides of the family to have a baby. I'd never even been around babies. I was a career focused type A, working 3 jobs, all the things. I was a forensic psychologist. I was in court. Like I can handle a baby, all the stuff. And this baby comes, it's all about baby. And then pretty quick on, you feel like you said that shame and that I'm like, I love this baby. He's mind blowing. I'm so in love, but also I kind of love my job and I kind of miss my job. And then the shame I got, even mentioned, like just putting that little bit in the world of like, what kind of mother are you that would leave your kid with a daycare or with a babysitter? And I was like, right, okay, well, it's all like so many. And then I went internal. And even the financial, like, oh, I
Right.
got happy, but it doesn't pay my bills. So I got to sell my car. I had to sell my vehicle that I worked hard for because I couldn't pay my vehicle payments at that time. So I had to sell my vehicle. But like, and I even talked to my husband. I just had all these like layers of not knowing and then resented him. And we never even talked about it. Like he had no idea all the shame, all the feelings, all the things, all the insecurities and vulnerabilities. I was just like lock and load, deal with it. It's what moms do, I guess. I just do all the things and then pretend it's fine and don't tell him, but secretly resent him because his life's the same. He goes to work for 12 hours a day and 6 days a week and he gets to keep his car. I don't, right? All of those layers that took me years of resentment of us talking about now, like reading your book now, I'm like, holy cow, bud, we didn't do this stuff. And he's like, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Like he probably would have been really graceful with it, but he had no idea. If he's like, I thought you loved them. Like, it was hard. And I loved moments of it, but there's moments that were really hard. Yeah. Let's open. If you're listening to this and you have friends, family that are having kids or have had kids or thinking about having kids, open these conversations up because man, there's so many layers that are so hard in your individual self, your sense of self, and the relationship. And we look at this baby, the baby's perfect. So it must be me. I must be the problem.
Totally. And and since nobody is talking about it or did talk about it, I mean, of course, once you have a baby or like, I don't know, like I'm thinking of Dr. Becky. Dr. Becky is a psychologist, just for your audience if they're not familiar. But I mean, she is like the person who gives parenting advice right now for millennials. And anyway, she's always normalizing how difficult it is. Like it's just again and again and again and again. And I'm just like expanding on that. And it's like, let's tell pregnant people Like, why not? Why are we not saying this? I mean, now that we're talking about, isn't that crazy? Like, it's really hard to have a baby. Like,
yeah, it's crazy hard, Kara. And I think the other thing you speak about this too, like there are these invisible struggles that we're not talking about, right? About what's happening in the body. And then to add to it, that I noticed with my husband, he felt also abandoned in the process. That there was no support for him to talk about the fact that he's like, I don't get to be home with the baby. Like I've lost my wife. Like she loved that baby with us. That baby is her everything. And now I'm an outsider. And I don't have that insider, because we didn't have that framework back then to think of it that way. It wasn't the relationship comes first, it was the baby comes first. And so just like these points that you have in this book that are just really opening conversations and validating people's experience is just like, it's beautiful and really,
thank you.
yeah, it's profound. And it even though Alicia and I have had our kids, like they're a bit older now, it's still, when we started preparing for this, we were still having more and more conversations. We were like, wow, so much we haven't processed, even as parents who've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, me too. And I wrote the book.
That's very validating. Thank you. Those of us, we're all therapists and we still fuck it up. So welcome to being human.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking I want to go back to that point because it is like it's the first guiding principle of the relationship comes first. So that's radical. Okay. Because it's not like it, like I talk about in the book, but I mean, like when you are pregnant, the focus is entirely on this buddy in your belly, in your uterus. And then when you have the baby, mothers are very much, and fathers, but continue to be eclipsed by the baby, by this person. So it's really easy for the culture to just support for the baby, for the children, and I really like wanted to question that, wonder about that, because of what I had learned from Stan about secure functioning. Like if Charlie and I are completely focused on Jude, then what is happening to him and I? Where are we? Where is our couple connection? And when we're doing that, what are we offering Jude? And that was something I really sat with and wondered about, what are the consequences of putting Jude first? Not just in the moment, but the long-term consequences. What will happen to my marriage if we continue to do this? And what are we modeling for Jude? And do we want to do that? So those are I had wonders about it. And then there's also the science of it, because we know from attachment theory, when partners are offering each other safety and security, the team's stronger. So you have a stronger team offering safety and security to your child by putting the relationship first. It's kind of not what you would intuitively think, but I think when you break it down, it makes sense. But I don't know if it's intuition or if it's the cultural narrative is so strong. But anyway, that was a dilemma that I was with when we first had Jude. Was noticing that Charlie, was very much the outsider. And in some ways, I was the outsider. We both were doing that to each other. And that's not how we had been before Jude. So it was different. I felt lonely. I felt lonely in my marriage for the first time, sustained loneliness after having Jude. And that was so weird to me. I was like, what is happening? I miss Charlie. He's here, but I feel very alone. And I'm not sure, I don't like this, but I'm not sure why this happened. And then after reflecting about it and talking with Charlie about it, we realized it's because we weren't prioritizing our relationship at all. We weren't stealing time to connect with each other. We weren't putting in the practices of the morning rituals, the welcome home rituals, the psychobiological way that our nervous systems could connect, being that we had very little time to connect because we just had a baby. But those moments of attunement can really sustain you through dark periods. They can get you back on secure functioning, the gazing, all the exercises I put into the book. And it doesn't have to be this like grand date night that's usually prescribed for couples, of getting a babysitter, being tired, being stressed out about financially how much it's costing you to have this dinner. It really is like moments of attunement that are just like putting money in a jar that it becomes very depleted when you have a child.
Yeah. What a great visual, like you said, the visual of here's the structure and our baby lives in that, like in the house or the ship, whatever you want to use as a structure, lives in there. And so we're not taking care of the structure, which is the relationship, right?
Yeah.
The baby's living in that space, or the children living in a space that's maybe not really secure. It's a little crumbly. It's a little unsafe. And so the cell, like when you give it that, you're like, oh, then of course I want to have a good structure. But when you say things, the best thing you can do for your children is have a secure relationship. They're like, what? But then when you give them the context of like, your kids live in the boat with you, and if the boat isn't secure, it's sinking, your kids are in there with you. Oh, okay, tell me how to do that now. Which leads into what you said, like having rituals. Like I think it's principle 3, you talk about agreements, which we love in our offices. But the agreements as new parents of how we're going to do whatever those rituals are, and whatever our ways of connecting are, and whatever our eye gazing, or the things that we know that work for our relationship. Let's create new agreements, because maybe it's not going to be, we go on date night anymore, or we don't have all this time to hang out and have, massive sex in the kitchen anymore, or whatever. We can't do that anymore. So what are we going to do instead? Let's create new agreements, because the dynamics of the ship structure, or maybe that's the ship environment has changed. So let's create the structure solid and secure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I want to say one more thing, that what we were just saying to that through these principles, Kara, I feel like you're creating a new culture for parents that our current kind of popular culture doesn't subscribe to. So when we're, us three, we're saying secure functioning, we get this. We've been living and breathing this for like 10 plus years, right? But for most people, it's do what's good for your baby. Don't drink, don't take that pill, don't do that thing, don't do that, don't eat that, don't do that. And everything is about this baby, and it's not about the couple. It's all about the baby. So it's just such an isolating cultural narrative right now still of everything for the baby and not for the couple. So this is, again, I just feel like you're offering these principles and these exercises and so much in there for couples to have a new framework of what this can look like, that in the longevity of their relationship is going to change. Because as couple therapists, we see these couples after 20 years and we say, why are you together? And they say, for the kids. And my heart breaks every time. I'm like, oh, you didn't get married for the kids. Like, your kids have nothing to do with your marriage. Let's take them out of it. They have to do with your family, but they don't have to do with your marriage. But then when they go back and they say, but it's always been about the kid. This was what we were taught.
Yeah. So principle 1 to refer, like, right? The principle 1 is the couple comes first. If you're listening to that, I know that's a hard sell, but if you can listen to Kara's structure of this is the reason why the couple comes first. And then principle 2 is, you and your partner take good care of yourselves and each other. So there's 2 captains in the ship, or there's 2, pilots on the plane, or whatever visual you want to use. There's 2 of you. So making sure that you got your oxygen masks on first, which again is a hard sell. But if you remember that you're piloting the ship, so without your oxygen, everyone dies.
Right. But, and it's also, I want to be clear, it's not to neglect your baby at all. Your baby is vulnerable, is precious, is very needy, very much deserves all the love and care that both of you have to offer. It's not an either or. It's offering it to each other. And by doing so, you could just consider it, listening to this podcast, what then you can offer your baby, your daughter, your son. Like, when you feel like your partner is really filling you up, do you feel like you're a better parent? Do you, like, if you feel like you're attuned to your partner and then you're watching your partner parent, are you noticing that they're a better parent? Do they have more resources to do the demanding work of caring for and parenting children? It's really hard in our nervous systems. We're co-regulating with our babies all the time. that constant dance. Co-regulating, let me be more specific. At the beginning, it's all external regulation. They're crying, you're soothing. That's your job. Are you able to do that gargantuan job that's 24/7? You can't clock out of it better if your partner's co-regulating with you. I think the answer is pretty obvious. But if you haven't ever considered it before, or it wasn't modeled for you, you wouldn't even ask the question.
Yep.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
That's the question. That's so true. Yeah.
It is. And it also, Kara, I think in Canada and the US, there's some differences also. Like in Canada, parents now, I mean, depending on the job, they get 18 months off paid to be with their kids. Now, when we say
not private practice,
I
like
know,
therapists, we don't. Just saying.
well, yeah. If you work for somebody, you get a payment, and it's basically what employment insurance would be. So it's not necessarily going to be what your wage is or anywhere near, but in Canada, there's a lot more fostering of families and relationships. And I think it's really good. What I will say is that still the majority, it's the woman taking that time off, not the man. And so he's, or same sex couple, it's one. Typically, it ends up being one of them that takes that time, and they're not getting that time to do the co-regulating together and the taking care of, because when they come home, the other one's like, I'm out of here, like I'm exhausted. So it's there. I just want to say there's some differences, because I understanding from living in the States, there's only 6 weeks that you get, and then you're both back to work. Is it?
There's no, I with either child, I had no leave. I mean, I took 5 months both times, and that was a luxury and a privilege that I was able to do that. But we don't have any leave. I mean, this is also, we're just naming this as structural problems. There should be paid family leave for when you have a child, when you're caring for a sick other person. I mean, this is essential work for our society that we all do that is not cared for structurally. So that is a problem. It would be so much better for families to launch families structurally, to offer leave to both parents and give them a fighting chance at the beginning, to negotiate this epic change with some structural support. But we don't have that in the States, unfortunately.
Yeah, we have it here. Some people have it here, but then there's still, I think, even with that, doesn't create a guaranteed safety net of security. Then there's still, again, in my experience of this untalked about stuff where I guess, before we had kids, we're doing the things, we're, running the household, we're figuring out, because we're navigating each other's schedules. So you cut the lawn and I'll do the dinner, and we figure that stuff out. And then as soon as, again, in my experience, baby happens, oh, good, you're home. Here's all the household duties, and here's the 24-hour job of the baby. Peace out. Good luck with that. And I like the idea, I think it was in your book you talked about, it's not a, divide and conquer. Here's your shift, here's my shift, here's your, right? Which is kind of what we do. Like, I'm exhausted. I've been with this kid for, 24 hours and I need a shower. So your turn. Instead of it's us, it's two of us raising this baby or these children together. So it's a different mindset of how we want to parent and how we want to create, again, the safety structure of our system, and how we want to co-captain that structure with babies and children involved in that system, and how that looks.
Yeah. I also just want to normalize for anyone who's listening to do the divide and conquer.
Have to sometimes.
It's not a bad thing. But the most important thing is it's conscious. You guys are talking about it. We're going to implement some pretty survival strategies right now. We have limited resources, and we need to divide and conquer and make sure that those are agreements there. So it's not just like the divide and conquer is, there's nothing wrong with it per se. But there is if it's not talked about and agreed upon, and there isn't a plan put in place for integrating once this acute part of survival is over.
So it goes back.
Yeah. You know what I think it's important to talk about before you have a child, that it's in the book, but I've given it a lot more consideration. Actually, since writing the book, I had another child. And so I got a chance to practice the book that I wrote with Charlie in real time. It's sex. We're not talking enough about what the impact on sex for couples is after having a child. And so, like, what happens to a birthing person if they're nursing? I mean, your hormones are telling you don't have sex. I mean, not everybody, not universally, but like statistically, most people. What does that do when it's not talked about before the baby and when it's happening? When you're like, is somebody feeling rejected? Is somebody feeling abandoned? Like, I mean, how, like, I just think there could be so much more conversation about that beforehand. And then when it's happening to like protect the relationship, like anyway, I've just after having another child and going through a period where I just felt completely disconnected to my own sex drive. And like, I remember my husband being like, we haven't been intimate. And I remember being like, the fuck is that? Like, not on my radar
Yeah.
at all. And that's so normal.
Yeah. What's interesting too, Dana and I were talking about this actually yesterday. And I literally said, when I was reading your book again, I was like, the sex thing that comes up even today, years later, those little bits of resentment that we didn't talk about and that built in. So when you say like, yeah, you're nursing a baby for a year or so and you have no drive, but then you self-abandon and do it anyways, because there's no conversation. And so I personally put little boxes of resentment in my relationship without my husband even knowing all the way through. And now fast forward and I'm just like, wow, I have these parts of me now that are like, carrying, and now we're talking about it, and he's like, I had no idea that you resented. And I was like, I didn't really either. I kind of knew, but I didn't make space to have, let alone with you, with myself, to have that conversation. So new parents have resentment. Let me tell you, like 20 years later, it still follows me. I still have moments where I'm like, I self-abandoned way back then so many times, and you wouldn't. And then the idea that you didn't know, that pissed me off even more.
You didn't, right?
I wasn't tuned into myself. I just knew something was wrong, but I was walled up and didn't let you tune into me. So there's so many layers of that sex talk. We talked about this morning. I'm like, we need to have a whole podcast or, on just that piece of the puzzle. It's huge. It's huge.
It is huge. And it's like so behind the veil. It's like another part that people aren't talking about, but we're talking about it right now. So that's exciting. So anybody who's listening, I guess it's a struggle for every partnered couple. Probably not every. I can't say anything in absolutes, but very commonly in my practice. And then I can also say personally, my sex life went through transformation after having children.
And even I don't know if you felt that, but I remember feeling the grief because before kids, not to self-disclose too much, but I really enjoyed it and it was great. And I love that part of my life. And then kids changed everything, but I still kind of like went through the motions some ways. But I remember grieving that, being like, oh, that part of me, like, where did she go? And how do I get her back? And well, I guess I don't have time for her. So shove her in a box and just power through life right now. And now I'm like reclaiming this part of my life. And I'm like, man, I put her in a box 20 years ago. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Come here, Yoni, let me love on you. Like, I'm trying to do all that, work on myself now. And I'm like, man, if I'd have known, 20 years ago to have those conversations. So it doesn't, it's a must, but it doesn't just stop, or start with when babies are born. And if you don't take care of it, then it just continues. It stays.
Yeah. I like the way you put that, Alicia. Grieve about that part of you. It's such a personal way to put it.
It was
grieving a part of you that you don't feel connected to right now. And that part of you was like a way that you used to connect with your partner. So there's like two different griefs going on there. And like, yeah. What it'd be like to grieve together. I guess that's a question I have. Like, what if we're able to name it and talk about it, what would it be like for partners to grieve together?
Not work now, but like I said, 20 years later. And it is beautiful. Like, honestly, the conversations my husband and I have now about that and about the here and now, the things he says to me, it gives me goosebumps. I'm like, he didn't know, I didn't fully know, but the grace he gives for those conversations are like, we're closer now than ever because we're having those dialogues now. It's kind of mind blowing. I'm like, why didn't I talk about that? Why didn't I even recognize? I knew I was grieving and I felt angry and sad, all the grief feelings about grieving. And I'm still feeling that grief, but now I'm talking to you about it. And even for me, knowing the work, I'm just like, so I got to talk about this grief, and I have to like, I'm working with this person to help me like love on my yoni and write letters to her and her letter. So do you want to read my letter? And he's like, okay. And we're doing this together. And he's like, that's beautiful. And I'm like, really? Yeah, it's really beautiful work to do now for sure. I wish I would have done it earlier, but anytime's good. Like I'm telling you, it's a beautiful, really fun process to do now in my life for sure. Yeah.
That's
people,
so cool.
Yeah. People listening that are listening early on, do it early on. Don't wait so long.
Yeah. Just have these conversations. As you guys were talking, I was thinking about, this intimacy and this birth, how we focus on the birth of the baby. It's going to be so beautiful. Or what's your birth plan? But what we talk about is it's a trauma. It's a trauma to your body. Let's hope it's not fully a massive trauma, which it is for some people, right? Some people have an emergency C-section. Some people have a cord, like some people have an actual trauma in their birth, but to your body, it's still traumatic. And we don't talk about how do we, as a couple, we created this being and only one person carried it or they adopted. But if one person carried it, how are we going to move through this like trauma together on the body? And how do we nurture this body and take care of this body and love this body to a healed place of then reintroducing, how do we touch this body? How do we love on this body? And have just those loving conversations would be so different.
Yeah,
how can we
I agree.
Intercourse? How can we increase desire? How do you want to be desired, or how do you want to connect tonight? Because you're still just at a childbirth, and I know maybe that's going to be painful. So how do we do it differently?
Maybe reimagining what intimacy or physical intimacy is like an important conversation to have too.
Yeah.
And for birthing people, like, I mean, it is so generous what we do with our bodies to share them physically with somebody else for, 9.5 months on average. And then if you nurse or breastfeed or chest feed, to continue to share your body. So you're like, it's such a generous, beautiful thing that is difficult, but that we do or can do. But it kind of changes our own relationships with our own bodies, because it's like this body's being used in this very practical way to like literally feed another person, So there's like a journey, I think, in my clinical work and personal work of like a reclamation of my entitled to pleasure with my own body again. I can be generous with it, and I'm still entitled for pleasure for it. And that's like more of a psychological journey that I've seen a lot in my clinical work and also experienced twice.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. I have a bit of an unrelated question, but thinking about a couple I have right now, so they're married with one biological child, and one child like was brought into the marriage from one of the partners. And the idea, like one of the agreements you have, or one of the, guiding principles you have in the book is, share decisions about the kids, and that we're a team. And so, and we often hear this in our office, and, it depends on the couple and how secure they are, but I hear often in my office, and we talk about it, but my kid, I'll decide. That's my child. That I'll decide how to work with that child. We'll decide with this biological child, and that doesn't create security.
Right.
What are your thoughts or recommendations around, or any thoughts around those dynamics?
Well, I'm just thinking, like, first thing that came to mind was the insiders, outsiders. So right there, it's in the concept, in Baby Bomb, Stan and I talk about this concept of insiders and outsiders, and the insiders are the two partners, and everybody else, including your children, but also like ideas, the culture, this is all outsiders that the partners are like just making decisions together and collaborating on decisions together. And so, Alicia, when I hear that, I think like this couple needs some fine tuning on who are the insiders and who are the outsiders. And also just to wonder if it's even possible for it to work to be insiders for one child and then one partner to be an outsider for the second child. Like what are the consequences of that?
Yeah.
Right?
How can they make agreements about that? How can they, if they can, convince me how you can create security around that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for that child too,
Yeah.
who has another like bonus parent. What is it doing to the bonus parent's relationship or the step parent? I don't want to, assume, but a step parent or bonus parent's relationship with that child. What are the consequences of that? That relationship's really important. That kid probably needs to feel safe and secure with their other parent.
Yeah.
So, there's consequences around from making a decision like that. And I also want to speak, it's like tender, I'm guessing. These are tender areas where you think I'm imagining that what this partner feels like I am the best person to make these decisions. I love this child more than anything. It's my child. And so it's tender to imagine entrusting their partner with such such an important trust.
Yeah. I love that. There's so many layers to those dynamics that we see often. And going back to that first guiding principle of the relationship first, that we are the insiders. And how do we stay the insiders, knowing there's these tender, precious dynamics that are so, people get stuck in the conflict. But like you said, it's such a protective, tender space. And if you can know your partner and what they're doing and why, you can lean back with some grace and compassion of, I know why you're reacting that way. But let's get back to the each other first, our relationship first, and how can our relationship serve all the children, all the thirds, whatever that is.
Right.
I'm curious, Kara, just like overarching, what do you hope that readers will take from the book Baby Bomb?
Honestly, I really wrote the book. I wanted it to be a friend in the darkness for people. I wanted people to know that even couple therapists struggle with their relationships after having children, and um, to normalize that a bit. That's why I include so many self-disclosures in the book, because I think that shame or that isolation is so toxic and potent. So I wanted to normalize that and and be like a friend in the darkness about like that kind of struggle, even if it's not super dark, to know that it's normal. And I wanted to offer people some ideas for possible ways out that may or may not resonate with them. And I write this in the book too. I'm like, even the book Baby Bomb is an outsider. Like, take what you like, you two, and decide what works for you two. Give it some thought, give it some reflection, consider the consequences, what you could gain, what you can lose by these practices. And but yeah, very much treat the book as an outsider. So practice secure functioning within the book. And yeah, take what you like and leave the rest. I also like what we talked about before we came on. I personally, in my first family, did not see secure functioning. So I didn't know it existed. It was like, like, I don't know, Oz, like, kind of like in the Wizard of Oz, it was like Oz. Like, I just didn't even know it was like a possibility, until I met Stan Tatkin, my co-author, my friend, and he taught me about secure functioning. So I wanted to offer that to other people like myself that did not know that this was a possibility. And then also, like, when you become parents, you're in this like really incredible, difficult place to break intergenerational patterns. You have this opportunity because you're raising another generation to change things up and offer healing to generations coming before you. And I think that's a really incredible opportunity we have as parents. It's really hard to heal our own wounds and offer differently to our children. Certainly don't do that perfectly at all myself, but I see that a possibility, and I'm so committed to it in my practice working with couples in the book, and of course in my relationship with Charlie, and like for myself, but for my children, I am so committed to changing the generational patterns that I inherited.
I love that. I love that. I'm committed to change. I'm committed to the practices. Like say, speak it. It's like a sermon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like, I just want to speak to what you were just saying, Kara. I love that. And I love in your book in particular, in most books, I don't like it when people have little case examples of like how you can do things. I loved yours. Like they were
Oh,
so
thanks.
good. Yeah, real like I was engaged with all of them. I was like, I loved how you gave the scenario and then you gave the redo. And I feel like you were inclusive in so many different types of relationships. I was just so helpful. I like how you said that too, like a what did you say, a darkness, like a book in the darkness, like a
A friend
silent
in the
passenger.
darkness.
Friend in the
Yeah.
darkness. I was channeling some an old show I was just thinking about there and how I was responding to that. But that idea that there is this little guide here of how this can look, and just that's very helpful.
Mm.
Can you speak, if you have time, to because you and Charlie both have careers that you happen to love. And so can you speak to that? Because I think it's a big part of, the shame that we carry and the untalked about, desire to work, but desire to be a good parent, the idea of that work-life balance of how.
Oh, such bullshit, right? I know. I just like, I don't think that that's possible. It's an ongoing dance, an ongoing shuffle. Some moments it feels like very balanced, and some moments it doesn't. And like, how do we care for each other in both, and our children in both? Because yeah, we are both like working parents. We have 2 kids. Life is busy. I was up last night for hours with one, and then got her down, and then I was up with the other. That's not balanced.
Oh, yeah. So can we like burn that term, work-life balance?
Yeah,
This is nicely air
it
quoting here, but
yeah. Yeah, it's a daily struggle. I feel like the balance, like well, if you want to use that word, but it's constantly negotiating and having those conversations. I know my husband and I were lucky that we were on the same page with parenting, that we wanted to navigate our careers, and one took the lead and the other one took the side. And then like he took 3 years off in total with our kids. So we've balanced back and forth of like, I'll work, you don't work, I'll work, you don't work. But that wasn't easy. I mean, I say that like that sounds like so lovely, but that there's a lot of challenges in that. But that was how we did our balance of back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I know there's not one right way to do it. And it changes all the time because like you and your partner and your children are changing and the needs are constantly changing. So you got to have like enough safety and security to really feel free to be flexible. And when we don't feel safe and secure, this is another plug for secure functioning. When we don't feel safe and secure, we don't feel like we can tighten up, get more rigid, hunker down, like get more preoccupied with getting our own needs met and not think about like the gestalt of the family, like, or the holistic side of like everybody's needs and how can we navigate balance. We can do that kind of creativity and collaboration when we're feeling safe and secure with our partners, and we feel like we have a teammate with us.
Yeah.
When we don't, and this is human nature. When we don't, we're wired to get our needs met, so we'll just find a way to get our needs met that may cause harm to self or others.
Or to survive rather than actually thrive or whatever when we're in survival. Yeah. And so I think you're right, like having that being, towards the other side of things now, but it doesn't get any less crazy. Well, a little bit less crazy, I guess now, but like a smidge less crazy. My kids are teenagers and can both drive, so I don't have to drive them everywhere, but they're still, I want to still go to their stuff and all their games. And so it's still an ongoing dialogue of, okay, who's doing what, who's got supper tonight, who's feeding horses tonight, who's taking what, this kid, who's watching it's an ongoing dialogue of the crazy, as we call it in our house, the crazy, because it is, right, with the massive map on the fridge of whose activities are what times, and mom's working here and dad's working here. And yeah, but that commitment, like you said, commitment to the work of like let's have this ongoing dialogue. Let's talk about it in my house every week of who's doing what, who's going dinner. Like it's a weekly dialogue of how we're going to balance. That doesn't exist in my house, but how we're going to thrive this week, knowing like this week my kids had finals or midterms, I guess, right? Be like, okay, they're gonna be a little bit more stressed out. So how can we as a unit support this kid on this day because she's got a final here and you got a final here? And what do you need for dinners? And can I make you your favorite food, or maybe watch a movie that night with you? Or how can I support you, in your stresses right now in our unit?
Right. That's just really attuned. And I think you can have the space to be really attuned again when you're receiving care from your partner and offering care to your partner, and you have that ability to then think beyond getting your own needs met. You don't have to worry about pinning them down. It's happening. So you're like, okay, let's think about the thriving or the beyond the surviving.
Yeah. There's a message, right? The message is if you listen to this book, read this book, refer back to this book 10,000 times, honestly, on a regular basis, and commit to your agreements, commit to the practice of doing the work, obviously we're going to advocate the earlier the better. Like we're therapists, so we're all going to advocate the earlier, like pre-kids, early on in your marriage, early on in your life, but whatever stage you're at, doesn't matter. Like I'm on the end of, like I said, the end of things, and I'm still like, okay, we can do better. We can learn more. We can evolve. We can get better at this. We can create more safety. Always.
Mm-hmm. Why not?
Why not? We're worth it. Hell's yeah.
What else are you going to do?
Right? Feel crazy.
Speaking of doing something else, Kara, do you have any new projects or anything on the go that you want to share with our listeners?
Sure. I do actually. I am on, so Baby Bomb is obviously for parents, new parents, but all parents. So it's like the beginning of life. And right now I am studying the end of life. I'm becoming an end of life practitioner. And I also run groups for folks that are terminally ill. And I am really honored to get to do that work. And it's actually changing my life working with folks that are on that bookend of life. It actually cheers me up just thinking about the people that I get to work with and the things that we work with. And it's interesting because both population, the parents, they are very motivated in my clinical work to make changes because they want to do right by themselves and their kids. And there's like a different kind of commitment to the work in some ways. And then I experienced that working with folks that are living with a terminal illness, that there's just like the work is just infused with a lot of life, actually, paradoxically. There's a lot of motivation to change things up, to tie things up, to find meaning, to let things go. That's really beautiful and really inspiring for the people I get to work with. That's where I am right now.
Amazing. I saw you post on Instagram with your manual, and I was like, yes, we had a podcast with a pastor recently, and he's an end of life pastor, and we talked about all the things about what a beautiful space where people are, like I said, open to with a lot of life of like looking back at their life, what they've lived and what the meaning is. And, and most of me said didn't have any fears about dying. It was like, am I here in this space? And have I created enough in my relationships and in what I'm leaving in my legacy to create meaning for those that I love that are going to, maintain my life legacy for me, when I'm gone. But what a beautiful space. And you get to actually see that end of life stuff and then bring it back full circle into your youngin, to your babies now, and be like, I see that meaning, legacy, relationship stuff. That's all that's important stuff back to the here and now. And I wonder if it gives you, or even though there's more of an expansive view of, oh, the mess I'm in and the balance that I'm not having doesn't really make that, it's not that big of a deal. The relationships.
Yeah. It is an interesting perspective to have, like working with folks that are in this, like, I mean, what is death? It's like the ultimate letting go. And considering, like, even thinking about, like, the getting on and off the secure functioning bus, so to speak. How can I, like, it's teaching me how to be better at letting things go. And not just like, not like, it sounds trite to be like, not just sweating the small stuff, because it's not like that. But it's like this, I'm working with these folks and watching them and helping them as they are in this process of letting go, like the ultimate letting go, and really getting a sense of our essence. And it really is love. We're here to love. It's love is a feeling, but it's also something, it's a practice. It's what we live, showing up for ourselves, showing up for our families and our friends. You know, I mean, that's what matters so deeply at the end. How well were we loved and how well did we love?
Yeah, I love that. So you could be thinking every day, how well right now am I doing love? The action,
Yeah.
both inwards that comes outwards. Like it's a circle of like, how well am I actioning love?
Or performing love. I'm even like wondering about it that way, you know, like I'm even wondering if grief isn't something that happens to us, but it's a skill that we perform. I'm kind of wondering if love might be the same thing, that it's a skill that we perform.
Yeah. Yeah. How am I doing? Am I doing the grief?
Yeah.
The work of grief? Am I doing the work of love? Ooh, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing the work of love? Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Because it's complex, but it makes you lean back to the crazy. I haven't showered, I haven't peed, or I'm touched out today, whatever that you're dealing with in your life with your baby, to lean back and go, but am I doing the work of love?
Mm-hmm. And that work of love in that moment might be to pee,
Yeah.
to brush your teeth, to get some space from being touched. I mean, but truly that like is an act of love to recognize that, you know, and to do that for oneself,
Yeah.
you know,
not abandoning self. Again, when you said it gives me goosebumps, which are those little things, but I'm like, yeah, if I'm doing the act of love, I'm doing the work of love for myself in this moment. I'm not abandoning. And if I was actually doing the work of love the whole time, I would have the courage to speak my truth. I would have the courage to have hard conversations, because it is the act of love to have hard conversations, because they're meaningful.
Yeah, it really is.
And to commit to
Thank you for asking me. Yes, that's what I'm doing now. I did it. I made a sharp left turn.
Totally. It's beautiful though. I feel like when we lean into where we're feeling called to go, there's just so much richness and growth in our own lives as well. As therapists, I mean, we're so blessed. I feel like we go on these journeys with these people, and they impact our journey, and they help us reflect on our journey. Like at the end, I'm sure you're the same as Alicia and I. At the end of a day, we're like reflecting so much on our own life, and there's so much growth all the time. So yeah, that's beautiful, Kara. And you're still doing your retreats as well for new parents and virtual practice.
I am. I'm going to have another one. Actually, it's not going to start until next fall because I am very focused on becoming the end of life practitioner. But yes, people can, if you're interested in working with me, just go to karahoppe.com, shoot me an email, and we can talk about it if you want to do a workshop or do couples coaching. Or if you or your partner has a terminal illness, let me help you. Let me help you at this very important time of your lives.
Yeah. Beautiful. Moments of vulnerability. Kara's your girl. Anything vulnerable.
Thank you so much, Kara, for coming on. You gave like so much amazing information and referring back to your book again, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for the work you do, and keep, and for the work you're continuing to do, for sure. Because the questions, the wondering that you have is the wondering of many of us. So I appreciate that you put the wondering to the pages and let us read your wonderings, because it's meaningful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for joining us.
We're really glad you're here with us on this journey.
The best way to support this podcast is to subscribe and give it a 5-star review.
See you next time.
This has been a Bread Dog Studios production.